Shot Podcast. I'm Brian.
I'm Dutch Murdoch.
And so today's a special podcast because at the end of this first few minutes, we'll be talking about some, hot topics, if you will. We've got an interview with Phillip Smith, who's just released his first chapter of his comic, Space Crush.
Yes, you can follow him on Twitter. That's where we discovered him. We just conducted a really good interview with him. Got to find out some of his inspirations for the comic he's currently working on, and just a bunch of other good stuff about him. So stick around right after we go over a couple little things here and check out our interview with him. It's a really good interview. I think you'll like what he's doing. And give him a check out. Like I said, his name's Phillip Smith. You can find him there on Twitter, and we will actually post in our bio. We'll post a link to how you can find him as well too.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so let's get to the news.
Well, in the wrestling world, we lost beautiful Bobby Eaton. Those of you wrestling fans know Bobby Eaton was one half of the Midnight Express, and I can tell you. Growing up here in the Mid-Atlantic area, Bobby Eaton was just a regular face that we saw all the time in pro wrestling, from the Crockett days on up into WCW. He was a regular that we were used to seeing him. Boy, we've seen him on TV, saw him live. You couldn't ask for a better worker.
No, and he started at 16. And he was the last. He was the longest running employee of WCW, I believe, because I think they finally let him go in either late '99 or early 2000.
So they basically let him go right as they were getting ready to go under.
Correct. So, but that's what we wanted to bring that up because Bobby Eaton was one of the good guys in wrestling. You can just look online and see all the good stuff about him.
Yeah, there's nobody that has any. Even before his death, I never heard anybody say anything negative about Bobby. Here several years ago, we had a chance to meet Bobby Eaton and Dennis Condrey at a wrestling convention, and very nice guys. Both of them were very nice. Bobby did not wrestle on the show. Of course, at that time, I don't know that he was able to wrestle. But one thing I always liked about Bobby Eaton and what he did as a wrestler was Bobby Eaton was definitely that guy that you put the right manager with him. Of course, for years he was with Jim Cornette, who, one of the best hype guys in the business there. But Bobby Eaton let Jim Cornette do all the talking, or Paulie dangerously, because there for a while they put him with Arn Anderson, and he got in the ring and he let his wrestling ability do the rest, and I don't think he ever disappointed.
No. So, that's about it on that front. So let's roll over into...
Well, the big news of the day right now is Tim Drake, Robin and Batman, has come out of the closet as bisexual, or at least that's what they're reporting in the latest issue of Batman Urban Legends. At the end of the series, or at the end of the comic book, a character that Tim's familiar with asks him if he wants to go on a date, and Tim accepts. So that's making news all over the place that Tim Drake now is bisexual. So,
and that's the way it is. So, I don't know if that's going to help increase their comic sales or not. I know that they're going to try to do some things for shock value because they want people to start talking.
Right.
So who knows?
I don't know what I don't know what the motivation with this is. We'll see.
Yep.
If it's not widely received, the fans will speak. But again, that's one of the big news going on there. Also, another big piece of news is that AMC Movie Theaters is going to begin accepting Bitcoin. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, that's pretty big news. I still think this whole the whole Reddit, Robinhood, AMC thing, where they were these folks were attacking hedge funds. I didn't have no problem with that. What I had the problem with was when they were building up like AMC or GameStop or whoever. Well, whoever's in charge, if they're not making, good decisions, they're just going to falter back down. So, it's almost like, good, you're going to get the stock to go up to $50 or $250 or whatever it might be. But if you don't have good leadership at the top, then it's going to be pointless. Now, when it comes to Bitcoin, I do think cryptocurrency, even though there's a lot of crypto out there, I think it's going to be some type of future of some sort, but I don't know how it's going to play out, really, because, when several years ago, when a whole bunch of people got Bitcoin stolen, well, then the only people that it affected was those that lost the Bitcoin.
Right.
That's the good thing about it, where we have not to get too political, I guess, but like right now when Wells Fargo goes, during like 2008, they started worrying about the financial crisis, and they're like, well, they're too big to fail. So we're rewarding these companies that are becoming so bloated and with mismanagement. We give them bailouts. Where like when it came to the Bitcoin, if you lose all that Bitcoin, well, the only people that lose it is those that are invested. It's not putting me on the thing. I do think it's kind of a neat idea, and I think it could help push Bitcoin up.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure how I feel about it. I mean, right now as it stands, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, is not widely accepted. It's not really a form of currency you're seeing a lot of, and I don't know. I've got my doubts with it because I think in the day and age with cybersecurity and this, that, and the other, just how safe is it? The other thing is, what's his name? Dan. Let me look him up here real quick because Peter. Oh, here we go. Dan Pena, Pena, the $1 trillion man. According to him, Bitcoin is owned by Russia. And like I said, not getting political here, but you want to talk about crippling your enemies. Take over their currency, and that's all you need. So, anyways. But enough on that. I did find that interesting, that they were going to start accepting it. I'm not sure that that's, how that's going to play out. But at any rate, though,
I think so. Well, Suicide Squad came out this past Friday on HBO Max.
Yes.
Since we were talking about AMC, and it also went to theaters. They said it underperformed, and it got $26 million. They were expecting for it to get $30 million, and
Well, but look, at the end of the day, and we talked about this back when theaters were still shut. The genie's out of the bottle. Okay. People like being able to watch this stuff from the comfort of their home. I've already watched Suicide Squad. I've watched it twice, actually. And I've seen it both times sitting in my living room on HBO Max.
Right.
Okay? I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'll never go to the movie theaters again, because that's just not true. But the bulk of the movies that I'm going to watch at home, because I made dinner, and we sat there, and we eat dinner, and we watched the movie. I was able to pause it if I needed to leave the room. I was comfortable. There's a lot of things. But now that being said, I also am a movie guy. I enjoy going to the theaters. I enjoy the big screen experience. There is something to be said about going to the actual movie theater. However, though, what you're seeing a lot of here lately, just like how you got Scarlett Johansson suing Disney. Over the fact that they, did the premiere access, which, they, unlike HBO, Disney's actually charging you for the first few days. Well, not for the first few days, but, they're charging you a premium to watch the movie from home versus going to theaters and see it.
Right.
Even at the premium, though, I think it's what, $30.
Right.
Well, you got some people that spend more than $30 just getting in the door there at the movie, depending on how big the family is or who all's going. You know what I'm saying? So yes, I mean, how hard would it be for me to say, hey, why don't we chip in and get this and watch it here at the house?
Well, when we watched Bill and Ted Part 3,
Face the Music,
near the beginning of the pandemic, that right there to me was just like, if you want to talk about a game changer, that surely was a game changer. I'd rather pay $20. Even if I would have paid for it by myself, I would have been fine. And, we sat in the comfort of our own home. We watched it. And then, of course, everyone chipped in. So, it wasn't bad. And now, like, for instance, Black Widow, that's a movie that if someone said, hey, y'all want to chip in, I would be interested in chipping in. I don't know if I'd go rushing out to the theater. And to get me to go back to the theater would be pretty hard. Because there's the experience isn't like it used to be. Because now you got these great big TVs, 55-inch, 60-inch TVs, high definition. What am I going to go see at the theater? What, really, an IMAX,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, and I tell you, no, honestly, they're going to have to look at measuring the success of these movies differently now, because in fairness, how would Black Widow have done had it been just released in theaters?
Right.
But because, for example, the $30, that may not take into account. If I pay $30, well, let's say movie tickets are $10. Well, that accounts for 3 people. Well, what if I got 6 or 7 people sitting here watching it with me?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So, I get it. I do feel like, though, with all these streaming services, with Netflix, HBO Max, Prime, Hulu, all of these places, they're making their own original content that they're wanting to put out. And they are direct competitors to the movie theaters.
Right. And they're very good.
And they're right. They're not. These are not straight to video. And any of you that used to rent movies back in the day know what I mean by that. These are not straight to video type movies. These are grade A movies. So, but one thing that, from what I understand, the reason that there's so much Scarlett Johansson was so upset about her pay and this, that, and the other with Disney, because her pay was obviously based off of box office performance. And from what I understand, when HBO decided to release everything straight to HBO, they renegotiated and did different terms with the powers that be in the movies. So that way they kind of made it a little bit better deal for them. They didn't quite leave them out hanging, whereas Disney didn't do that. Is my understanding. Now, I may be speaking out of turn there, but that's my understanding, is that Disney did not go back in and say, hey, listen, we're going to go a different route, so we're going to, to make sure that you're taken care of, let's do this. And in all honesty, I mean, how many movies has Scarlett Johansson done for Disney?
Oh,
as Black Widow? I mean,
yeah.
Why not? Why are you not taking care of somebody that has been consistent for you? Because I mean, look at the the hot mess that's fucking DC Universe.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, you get what's old Jason Momoa does one movie of Aquaman or Justice League, and he says he'll never do another teen movie again. And I told him, I said, well then I tell you what, good day to you, sir. I don't need you.
Right.
I'd have fired him on the spot.
But that's the problem with DC. DC's garbage in that aspect because you have Suicide Squad that was very good.
Right.
And then you had, I thought, Shazam and Aquaman were okay. They weren't blowing
Not
me
great.
They weren't blowing me down.
No.
But they were good. I enjoyed them.
Shazam's a prime example too of, that's another thing. Superman makes an appearance at the end and you see him from the neck down.
Yes.
In the Hulk, Robert Downey Jr. makes an appearance when he talks to old Thunderbolt. And it's Robert Downey, you're not seeing him from the neck down or behind, just a shot from behind. Robert Downey Jr. actually did the cameo at the end of the Hulk for the end credit scenes to tie everything together.
Right.
And DC can't even get that right.
No, well, they're all over the place. You got people making Joker movies that they specifically, the director said, I wanted to put it at this time frame so it can't be connected to the DC universe. You've got people making new Batmans. It's all over the place. It doesn't make any sense. And one of the cheerleaders for DC Comics or the film division, now that Discovery has purchased Time Warner, and they've released him. So we're going to have more confusion. And, the fear is, and I know we've talked about it on other podcasts, my fear is the smoke's going to start turning into a fire, and you're going to see, you will see Marvel come in and probably pick them up.
Probably. But anyways, that's pretty much all I got for now.
All right, so let's.
Well, guys, stay tuned. Like I said, right now we're getting ready to cut over to our interview with Phillip Smith. I think you'll really enjoy it, and go check him out and show him some love. I think you guys will enjoy his stuff as much as we did.
Hey, this is Brian from Potato Shot Podcast. Right before we start this interview with Phillip, I just want to let you know that the front part of the interview was kind of wonky. I made some mistakes. This is the first time we did this, so I apologize to you, Phillip, and to anyone that's listening. So just to go over what he said, he works at a hospital as a respiratory therapist, and he started drawing again back during the pandemic. So from that point on, we're just going to cut right into Phillip talking and answering a question. I don't think you're going to lose anything. So here we go, Mr. Phillip Smith.
To utilize energy, but the whole transformation thing definitely was a big inspiration from Dragon Ball.
Okay, that was really cool. Like I said, that was kind of fun seeing that. And I have to tell you, his partner, one thing and of course I'm a child of the '80s and stuff. So when Blade Runner came out, when she was talking about her being a cyborg, that kind of reminded me of like some Blade Runner and whatnot. Of course, she had the extending arms, which I thought was fun. You a fan of Blade Runner and some of Ridley Scott's stuff?
I love Blade Runner, and funny enough, I got put on Blade Runner super. I know, forgive me, I know it's like a very respected film, but I hadn't even heard of it until like 2 years ago, and my wife put me onto it. And I watched the whole film like maybe last year.
Okay.
And I just watched two not too long ago. But yeah, I love Blade Runner. I love that art style, like the cinema photography and Blade Runner. So I definitely could say I drew some inspiration from that too. Like that was like a film I studied while like working on this. So I'm happy that somebody even took that from it. Like it's kind of an honor because like that's like something I studied while trying to create this. So I'm glad like you can see remnants of it in there, and like because that wasn't intentional, but I could see why. Like I probably grabbed some stuff from that.
Yeah, I was going to say, as I was reading the first chapter there, it was very clear you're a fan of different mediums there, and I felt like that you kind of channeled that into your work. So that was fun for me as I was reading the first chapter there.
Awesome.
So how long have you been into comics? Have you just ever since you were? What introduced you to comics too? Was there something? The colors, the stories. What?
So I don't know exactly what was like the first comic I read, but growing up I watched Spider-Man, X-Men, Batman, TAS was my first introduction to like comic book characters. The first comic book I probably read was probably a manga, and it was probably like something out of Shonen Jump. I used to collect the Shonen Jump books when I was growing up, and that's the earliest memory. And I watched like American comic book superheroes by the time I was coming up were starting to be on film, on television. So like I watched the cartoon shows and the films mostly. I wasn't reading like American comics like that and was reading more manga. But when I got older, I started to go back and read that stuff too. And like I got introduced to other publishers like Dark Horse and started reading stuff from Boom Studios. So I read a lot now, but I'm pretty sure like a manga like Dragon Ball or something was probably my first comic that introduced me to it, like when I was younger.
Right.
So, what you said you came up with this concept back when you were in college for
Mhm.
what you're working on currently. What were some of the things you draw inspiration from? Like, what inspired the story you're currently working on?
Just a lot of just sci-fi film. Like I feel like I took a lot of inspiration from a ton of stuff. Like when I was working on it in college, it was mostly just like drawings of characters and like kind of the concept of Micho, the main character, and his powers. It wasn't until I started working on it like last year when I really started putting together the story and the concept of the stuff together. But it's just a ton of stuff. Just a bunch of different sci-fi films, Star Wars, Alien, Blade Runner, like any sci-fi film I probably come across and grew up on. Just kind of rolled into one. Like some of the manga I've read, like it's just kind of all that stuff kind of just rolled together and like me trying to put my own spin on it. Cowboy Bebop was a
Yep.
big inspiration.
Okay.
Um, so it was a lot of different stuff.
When you're in the process, and of course, let me ask you this: have you completed, like, have you got the storyline laid out and you're pretty much now just kind of putting it to ink to paper and you're kind of fleshing it out now, or are you kind of letting the story evolve as you're putting it together?
So I do a little bit of writing ahead, but once I start putting stuff on paper and like going off my little script I wrote, it kind of evolves and changes. But I have like a loose like outline of the current arc that I'm working on because I plan on it being multiple arc like series. So I have it laid out, but once I start like storyboarding the specific chapter and writing it down, it usually kind of changes and evolves a little bit. Because some things I realize like it's too much to put in one chapter. I feel like I always write too much for the chapter. Then I have to cut down, so that means I have to kind of like switch the story up from what I originally thought it would go like. And then some things I just like, okay, that don't make sense right now, so I'm gonna switch it up. And sometimes I run stuff by my wife, and she'll give me some feedback, and I'll change up based off that feedback. So it kind of evolves as I like get closer to actually developing the specific chapter. But I have like an outline I try to follow, but it kind of changes as I go.
Now, is your wife a fan of like the sci-fi and the anime and stuff like that as well?
Oh yeah, yeah. She's a big anime sci-fi. She reads comic books as well. She actually has her own podcast with her friend called Solar Scouts. That they talk about anime and gaming a lot. So yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Okay. So you said you let it flow as you're drawing. How many chapters do you think, if you were to, would you be able to guesstimate how many chapters do you think your story will tell?
That I couldn't say for sure. I have like I said, a storyline of the current arc I'm trying to do. I have an ending in mind in a certain point that I want to reach. Like that, once I reach that point, that'll be the end of the story. But honestly, I couldn't tell. Like I was thinking in terms of like volumes, maybe. Like I feel like it's gonna be a multiple volume series like that I could create like um multiple graphic novels eventually if I can get it that far. That's kind of how I envision it. Like not like One Piece or something like that, but like maybe like 10 graphic novels or something would be
Right.
like really really rough estimation.
Right.
Now, is your goal? Obviously, your first chapter is digital. Once you complete this, do you plan to make like an actual physical copy of your comic book?
Yeah, so like I'm kind of just taking it like a step at a time. When I first started this, I was like, and I was kind of just fooling my brain. I knew I wanted to do more, but like to just get myself started, I was like, I'm just gonna do a one shot. So I was gonna just do like a standalone story type of thing, and just see where it went. And the plan was to print that and make hard copies of the one shot. But once I got towards the end, like I had started working on chapter two already, and I was like, okay, this is not gonna be a one shot anymore. What can I do with this? Like, I was like, I can print now, and try to sell them and see if people want to buy this comic they never heard of before, and do it that way. Then I got the idea of like, what if I just I grew up reading this series called Mega Tokyo, and it was a online web comic, and he was like one of the guy who made it, Fred Gallagher. Like he was like one of the first like American comic book illustrators and writers that did work that was like clearly influenced by Japanese manga. And he used to do all his chapters online. Like I think he used to like put up like a page every like Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, and he had it on his own site. So I was like, maybe I can start off with something like that and just give people something to read that I enjoy making, that, I'm not trying to sell nothing to you or nothing, and that maybe I can build a fan base. And I feel like if I build a fan base and people start wanting something physical, then I can print, or maybe just at a certain point, like just to commemorate, I'll just come out with a physical copy of like once I get to the level where I can like put enough chapters together to make a one graphic novel. I can just put out one, and if people want to buy it, but just to commemorate like the benchmark, So I'm kind of just seeing everything, like I'm just taking everything one step at a time. I'm like, okay, I completed a chapter. I'm gonna show the people. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do a website and release the first chapter for free. Then I'm gonna release the next chapter, and I'm kind of just taking it step by step like that. Like then get to a certain point, I'm like, okay, I really want to give people some physical, so I'll see the steps to like getting my stuff printed and bound, and see if people would like to buy the graphic novel. So I'm just kind of taking it at one step like that. So right now I'm doing just digital, but I would definitely eventually want to like release some physical copies to put out.
Okay.
What do you hand draw everything and then scan it to the computer, or do you use like a computer program? I know, drawing pencil and paper is getting, no longer. Most people are using, like, what type of equipment do you use?
So yeah, right now I'm doing the first chapter was done exactly how you said. I wrote on pencil, then I inked, and then I put it in the program. So I use Clip Studio, which is kind of like the popular site that like independent comic book artists that I see a lot of them using, and that's what I decided to use, just kind of based off of that. But I really love the program. It's a lot that you can do with it. So right now the first chapter was done like that. The second chapter pretty much is being done the same way. The third chapter I'm gonna attempt to like just kind of stick to digital and maybe do some pages ink, just depending on how it go. But I'm kind of making the transition just because it's more you can do with the program, like just like with inking, painting, like coloring. Like you can mess up and like not have to start your work over. Like, it's cheaper. Like supplies, like you got every utensil you could ever buy, like right there on your computer. It's just so many advantages to just doing digital opposed to traditional. Traditional takes more time, like physically scanning in images takes time itself, then cleaning it up takes time, and you're kind of limited on how much you can edit with the scanned image. You can do a lot. Like I did a lot on that first chapter, digital. Like a lot of that, some of those characters, like I edited their whole face. Like I redrew their whole face in the program. Like erased it and drew it digital. So it's a lot you can do, but you kind of limited, and it just takes a lot more time, and it's more costly to do traditional art. So um, I was very much against like the digital drawing like back in the day because I didn't understand it, and I felt like it took away from your art, but it really just kind of makes everything faster. So I really like it now.
With your story, the way that you're telling it, we know you know this well. The kids aren't buying into comics like they used to. Are you being mindful trying to make it where which age demographic? Are you just does this make sense? Or are you trying to focus on a certain age demographic? Are you trying to so you can get the more the most eyeballs on your product?
So um, I'm really thinking of it like if I gave it like a movie rating, like I'm really like kind of in the PG-13 category. Like I want it to be a book that adults read and gravitate to and enjoy, but at the same time, if they kid got their hands on it, they wouldn't have to like snatch it out their hands, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Kind of like a family friendly, but serious themes like but just fun, like basically like how you go see a Marvel movie, but you there for you, but you bring your kids along because they can watch it and like it too, basically.
Right.
So kind of like in that realm.
Okay. Now let me ask you this. Obviously, as when you go in and you start creating and stuff of this nature, do you have any particular like artists or music or something like that that you like to listen to while you create, or are you somebody that you just want it quiet while you're working, or what's the atmosphere like when you're being creative?
Sometimes it's just kind of quiet on here because sometimes like I can be so into music like it can be distracting. Um, but sometimes I have a show playing that I don't have to like pay particular, like I may have seen it before that I don't have to be super focused in, like playing like kind of low on the low setting. But as far as music, I love lo-fi hip hop playlists. um I'm a big hip hop fan, so like sometimes I have like the hip hop playlist playing, Outkast, Goody Mob. Um, I like Nirvana. Sometimes I hear that playing low, like on a low setting where I can like hear it, but it's not so loud. It's kind of distracting. We have a record player in our living room, and sometimes I just throw one of our records on the record player, and
Yeah.
it's like just the right amount of like noise where it's not like distracting, but it's like a good comforting sound where I can focus on it. So yeah, probably just some music playing on like medium setting. Have my computer or laptop open. Have some other works to look at and just draw inspiration from. Um, and just my computer and my Wacom tablet and just be drawing.
Let's see. So with your comic, I know it was in black and white. Once it goes digital, do you think you'll make it all color, or you think you'll stick with the black and white um,
Uh,
look?
I'll definitely probably stay with the black and white just because like growing up reading manga, like I appreciate color work, and that's not to say I won't color like a few pages on certain chapters. When I print it out, that's probably like the route I'll go. But like, I really appreciate the kind of grayscale and manga, like, cause sometimes colors can just make a comic to me like look a little too busy. Um, and I don't know, I just find like kind of beauty in like the grayscale. So that's something I'm gonna probably keep just for the aesthetic that I like. But I'll definitely like color pages here and there just to have like a surprise page like in there in the future. For sure.
So you said earlier that your wife uh, was into comic books. Are you currently collecting, and if so, what's on your pull list?
Yeah, I do collect a few. One that I just um got into was hold on just a sec. I don't know why I'm having a brain fart because oh yeah, Seven Secrets. Seven Secrets was something I just read, like the most recent. I just bought the graphic novel that I think is really, really good, that I love. I like, I don't know if y'all watch Power Rangers at all, but like they have a comic book series with Boom Studios called Go Go Power Rangers, and it kind of takes the whole mythology of Power Rangers more serious. So like it's like Power Rangers from when you was a kid, but like a more serious undertone. Um, and I love that. Um, I've read Empowered, like I'm a big Adam Warren fan. Uh, let's see. I just started reading Invincible. I think Invincible is great.
Have you watched the series on Prime?
I've just started getting into it. We just watched the first episode not too long ago. And it looks great. I'm trying to like ignore all the spoilers online, but I'm
Yeah.
very much gonna get back into it because I know it's gonna be great.
Now, Philip, let me ask you one question here about your comic. Once you start getting some more chapters under your belt and you start moving up the chain here, where would you envision your title landing? Do you see yourself as a DC guy? Do you see yourself as Marvel, maybe Image? Where would you, if you had to put your comic under a publisher like that, where do you feel that your comic fits in?
Um, if I had to envision like if I just like got my dream call from a publisher or something, it'll probably be either Dark Horse or Boom Studios.
Okay. Yeah, Dark Horse has been around for years and has had some really great titles.
Um,
That's for sure. I've read a bunch of Dark Horse as well. Um, yeah, but
Have you watched any of the like any series? Because you were talking about watching Invincible. Have you like watched T-Man or the new Masters of the Universe or the Suicide Squad? Because them are the two big things I guess out here recently. Have you checked them out?
I'm definitely gonna check out Suicide Squad. I watched the first film, but I watched the trailer for this one, and it just looks and feel more comic book than the last one to me. So like, I'm really excited about watching that. We just watched Loki
yes.
um this past weekend, and I thought that was amazing. Um, and I haven't gotten around to He-Man yet, but I'm definitely intrigued. Um, I watched a little bit of the series UK, the Black Samurai.
Okay.
Um, um, so a lot of stuff like I just have to kind of like me and my wife are so into these series, we kind of both have to wait because we want to experience them together. So we just have to wait until we both have a moment to watch them. So it's still some stuff we kind of got to get caught up on. A lot. It's a lot. We got a big list. We still got to go down.
Yeah. In today's age, there's definitely, if you're a comic book fan of sci-fi and things of this nature, it's definitely a good time to be alive because there's a lot of good programming out there.
Yeah, man, it's great. I'm living it.
So, well, Phillip, I think that's about all we got for you, bud. I want to thank you for taking time to sit down with us. I really enjoyed your first chapter, and I'm looking forward to more work from you. So, I hope you find success with what you're doing.
Yes, sir, man. Thank you. Thank you for interviewing me, man, and just having interest and wanting to do this interview. And I'll definitely like keep up with y'all stuff in y'all podcast. I notice y'all do a lot of wrestling and UFC stuff.
Yep.
I was a big wrestling fan back in the day, and I still keep up with some stuff. My cousin is a big wrestling fan, so whenever I talk to him, that's when we talk about wrestling. But
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna be on the lookout for y'all too, man, and I appreciate the love.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much, and we'll see you later.
All right, thanks, man. Good talking with you guys.
Good talking with you.
Goodbye.
Thanks again for listening to Potato Shop Podcast. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Podbean, and all the other groovy places you listen to your podcast. Follow us on our different social media. At Instagram, we're at Potato Shop Podcast. Twitter, at Potato Shop PC. Then swing over to our YouTube channel, and you can find us at Potato Shop PC. Then while you're there, click the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. That would help us out greatly. And once again, I want to thank Phillip Smith, and you can follow him and his comic book Space Crush at comicbook_P. That's on Twitter, comicbook_P. So until next time, my friends, goodbye.